Bitcoin mining is good for the environment. Bookmark this video for whenever somebody asks you about Bitcoin mining, because in this video, I want to educate you on three things. Number one, the good Bitcoin mining is doing on a global scale, country by country. Number two, the good that Bitcoin mining is doing in the US, state by state. And number three, the good Bitcoin mining is doing in general, argument by argument. Like, comment, share this video on social media if you want to help get the word out. In this video, I'm going to try and convince you 21 reasons why Bitcoin mining is good. Let's start on a global scale. Bitcoin mining is helping 1,600 families in the mountains of Malawi, Africa, get cheaper hydroelectric energy. The formula is this: extra sustainable electricity plus Starlink internet connectivity plus Bitcoin mining profitability equals cheaper energy for the community.
I'm up here in the remote southern mountains of Malawi, and you can see these beautiful rivers that are feeding a powerhouse. 1,600 families are connected to the power that comes from this powerhouse and two others. This one has 50 kilowatts of excess energy, so we've come in to work with the power producer to make use of that energy for Bitcoin mining, which makes them more self-sustaining, and it can also just increase the livelihoods or decrease the cost of power for those who are connected.
Bitcoin is powered by volcanoes. The Titicaca volcano in El Salvador produces more clean, sustainable geothermal energy than the local community can even use. Mining Bitcoin with the extra energy helps lower their costs and balance their electric grid. In Lebanon, the Lebanese local currency, as in the currency that regular people use to buy, sell, trade, save, has lost more than 95% of its value. Pensions are worthless, banks are shut down, and ATMs are out of cash. People are surviving by mining Bitcoin. Listen to this.
After decades of war and bad spending decisions by the government, Lebanon's economy is in ruin. I'm speaking to people who've had their life savings wiped out. There are fuel shortages and power cuts, a local currency that's lost 95% of its value, and crucially, money trapped in the bank. People are literally robbing banks at gunpoint to demand access to their own cash. And because of this, a sort of shadow crypto economy has emerged. So we're talking about locals mining for Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Litecoin to earn money because they can't find work. Others are getting paid in Bitcoin by finding freelance gigs on Reddit and then treating Bitcoin like their bank because they think it's the safest way to store their savings. Overwhelmingly, what I keep hearing is that people are desperate for a connection to money that actually makes sense, and decentralized digital currencies that are outside the reach of bankers and politicians makes a whole lot more sense than the Lebanese lira right now.
All right, so Mac, let's talk a little bit about some of those crypto mines you mentioned. If there's widespread power cuts and fuel shortages, how does this actually make sense as a way to make money?
So it makes sense because of hydropower. So in certain pockets of the country, like in the Shuf mountain range, which is south of Lebanon, there is abundant and inexpensive electricity being harnessed from the Litani River. Now, I spoke to Ahmed Abu Dair. He's 22 years old, and he runs an expansive mining network across the country. Now, he has 40 employees working for him. Some of his mining farms are actually running on solar power closer to the Syrian border. And what I find especially compelling about his business model is the fact that he allows people to remotely invest in his operation and then earn a monthly dividend in crypto. And some of his customers are at the opposite end of the country from where these farms are. Some are in Syria, Turkey, and Egypt. It's a really interesting setup.
TEPCO, the largest power company in Japan, is mining Bitcoin. TEPCO now uses their surplus renewable energy to mine Bitcoin, helping lower energy costs for consumers, increasing profits, and decarbonizing the energy grid. Bitcoin saved the day in Costa Rica. For this hydroelectrical plant in the middle of the forest of Costa Rica, this was shut down for 9 months because it could no longer make a profit. It's now back online, generating sustainable energy and mining Bitcoin.
A defunct hydro plant in Costa Rica is getting a new lease on life by powering crypto mining and bringing clean energy to a rapidly expanding business. More than 650 machines from 150 customers operate nonstop from this plant next to the Poas River, just outside of capital city San Jose. Costa Rica generates nearly all of its energy from green sources, where the state has a monopoly on energy distribution. The company invested $500,000 to venture into hosting digital mining computers.
El mercado es el minero internacional que va en busca de las mejores condiciones. Ese minero busca energía limpia, busca energía barata, que le sea económicamente viable y busca conexión a Internet. Donde la encuentre es donde ese minero va a ir.
North Vancouver set to become the first city in the world heated by Bitcoin mining. This will create heat for the city using sustainable energy and Bitcoin mining to lower the costs. Zimbabwe. Bitcoin is used to crowdsource solar panels in Zimbabwe. 1,900 individuals across 98 countries funded the Nimwe Fresh project, a grower of berries and vegetables made up of 250 smallholder farmers. This was only made possible thanks to Bitcoin. Intel, the superconductor giant, is building energy-efficient Bitcoin mining chips. ExxonMobil uses Bitcoin mining to reduce harmful emissions. Now let's focus on the US. Bitcoin mining is cleaning up toxic waste and saving taxpayers $5 billion. At least in this Pennsylvania town. Check this out.
Well, it could be part of the future of digital currency, or it could be a new way to clean up the environment, or it could be both. Action News anchor Matt O'Donnell pays a visit to the Panther Creek plant in Carbon County, PA, which uses the waste from old coal mines to power a Bitcoin mine.
It is 2,800 miles away from Silicon Valley. And yet the borough of Nesquehoning, tucked into a valley in Pennsylvania coal country, is the site of America's newest large-scale Bitcoin mine. What do you think about the Bitcoin mine here?
Didn't know they had a Bitcoin mine.
My father was a miner years ago, but as far as what you call it, I never heard of it that way.
Publicly traded Stronghold Digital Mining purchased the Panther Creek Energy Facility, a defunct coal plant in town, to power its Bitcoin mine. Energy industry veteran Bill Spence says he came up with the idea to make money on digital currency while also cleaning up his home state of coal refuse.
I think I'm curious, painfully curious.
You get the Bitcoin, you get rid of that.
Absolutely. There's a direct correlation in art with us, with Bitcoin and cleaning up the environment.
Workers transport the coal waste from several sites, the largest being the Swoyersville dump site near Wilkes-Barre. They separate usable coal from the massive piles and use it to generate electricity. Some power is sold back to the grid for profit. Most is used to power and cool this field of computer servers, all hooked up to the blockchain to help process Bitcoin transactions all around the world. The blockchain, an automated computer ledger for Bitcoin, grants Stronghold fractions of Bitcoin as a thank you in return. That is the digital mining part. There are 80 trailers on site, each containing 64 computer servers, all of which have been mining Bitcoin for the 2 hours that we've been here. And in the span of that time, Stronghold estimates that they have mined about 1 Bitcoin, which, according to today's prices, means they earn more than $19,100.
It's a more sustainable way to do transactions.
Bitcoin mining is coming to New Hampshire. Governor of New Hampshire recommends the Department of Energy review how Bitcoin mining can help stabilize the energy grid, build more sustainable generation projects, and lower the cost for consumers. Governor of Texas says Bitcoin is good for the power grid. We are promoting Bitcoin, we are advancing it, we are providing a platform for it. Bitcoin is the cutting edge of innovation in the world.
We see the future of what Bitcoin, of what blockchain means to the entire world. Texas wants to be the centerpiece of that. And so we are promoting it, we are advancing it, but I would say we're providing the platform for those who are involved in blockchain, for those who are involved in Bitcoin, to make sure that they're going to have a location they can come to that does not have the sense of friction that comes along with high regulation. So that makes the ease of business far better, and it promotes that innovation. So we will continue advancing, and Bitcoin and blockchain is the cutting edge of innovation in the world right now.
Bitcoin mining is helping balance Texas's energy grid and is driving more renewable energy opportunities into Texas. The CEO of Texas Energy Grid, Brad Jones, explains this at Texas Blockchain Summit.
So for many years, ERCOT had been looking for loads of scale that could really respond in a demand responsive way that could help us balance our grid. Back in 2015, you may remember we started the process of setting up loads in SCED. It was through, I think, about 2016 or 2017. No one showed up at first. There just wasn't any loads of scale that could really help us in that market. But it's here now, and it's a great thing for helping us to balance the grid, helping us to manage all of our resources. The Bitcoin has the nature of really turning down when prices begin to rise in a way that we can give that power back to other consumers. And at the same time, as we bring more and more renewables into the state, it becomes a driver of more renewables. Because right now, if we bring in all the renewables that are signed up to want to come to our state, there will be a significant depression of pricing during the day. By having Bitcoin there to assist and to stabilize those prices throughout the day, it's going to drive more renewables into our system. And that's good for Texas.
Green Bitcoin energy coming to Montana. A company wants to build a massive solar project in Montana. Of course, it's for crypto. It also promises green electricity for the rest of the Montana community. The oldest hydroelectric facility in the United States was going to be turned off forever. Built in 1897, Mechanicville Hydroelectric Plant could no longer make a profit. Bitcoin mining saved it. Now let's talk about the arguments. Why is Bitcoin mining good? The United States House Committee on Financial Services wrote a letter to the EPA. In this letter, it says, quote, "Most importantly, digital assets and their related mining activities are essential in the economic future of the United States. Bitcoin keeps things warm. Bitcoin mining is keeping this 40-room hotel warm during the winter and lowering energy costs." This person found a way to help stray cats in the winter by using the warmth of Bitcoin mining and earning a profit at the same time. Who likes fish? By using the warmth of Bitcoin mining, engineers are able to build profitable and sustainable hydroponic fish hatcheries and heating systems. Heat your home, heat your barn, recycle the warmth of Bitcoin mining, and grow flowers. Still not convinced? Let us convince you. This testimony in front of U.S. Congress explains how Bitcoin mining is a net positive. Brian Brooks.
Thanks so much for having me here to talk about the energy impact of blockchain technology and related cryptocurrency activities, and particularly Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin is important because it introduced the world to the concept of a fully decentralized, secure, trustless system of financial value exchange that turns on proof of work not as a necessary evil, but as a positive feature of its design. And I look forward to exploring these concepts with you today. My name is Brian Brooks, and I spent much of my career in traditional finance, culminating my service as acting U.S. controller of the currency. I also served as chief legal officer of Coinbase and currently serve as CEO of Bitfury Group. Bitfury, directly and through our subsidiaries, is one of the most energy-efficient Bitcoin miners in the U.S. and globally. More about that in a few moments. I view the subcommittee's topic today through two lenses. First, in assessing environmental concerns about Bitcoin mining, or frankly any other energy use, not all energy consumption is created equal. Would we care, for example, that an activity consumes a lot of energy if 100% of that energy came from renewable sources? Presumably not. So if Bitcoin consumes an energy mix that is roughly twice as sustainable as the U.S. electric grid as a whole, that is a more relevant fact than the mere amount of energy that it uses. And even more important are the incentives that Bitcoin creates to generate more renewable production. The second lens is, we're a market economy in this country, so we should think deeply about the economic productivity created by Bitcoin, or anything else, per unit of energy consumed. Thus, for example, if Bitcoin competes as a store of value with gold, does the energy used in Bitcoin mining produce more economic value per unit of energy than gold mining? Or if Bitcoin competes with traditional finance as a means of payment or as a source of credit, does Bitcoin produce more economic value per unit of energy than financial services? The answers might surprise you, as I'll point out in a moment. Now, to be sure, Bitcoin's energy consumption is not trivial, but it is very small compared to many other energy uses that no one questions. Now, I'm not going to belabor the usual comparisons that you hear to clothes dryers or holiday lights or that sort of thing. That would trivialize an issue that the committee's talking about, which is an important issue. But what is clear is that the 188 terawatt hours used by Bitcoin last year out of about 155,000 terawatt hours consumed globally for all uses, was sourced more sustainably than other uses on average. So for example, the energy mix used by Bitcoin mining was about 58% sustainably sourced last year, sustainable under the International Energy Agency definition, including wind, hydro, solar, nuclear, and with carbon offsets, compared to 31% for the US energy grid as a whole. And Bitfury's specific numbers are in line with those rough ratios. Now, even more relevant than Bitcoin's current energy use is the incentive effect it has on the future production of renewable energy. Bitcoin miners seek low energy costs, and the lowest cost always comes from excess capacity, which can include wind and solar energy and energy lost in the transmission and distribution process, among other things. As just one example, in 2020, in California, where I live, 1.5 million megawatt hours of solar production was curtailed, meaning wasted, because production exceeded demand. And the US grid loses literally thousands of terawatts a year due to inefficient transmission. Now, because Bitcoin miners are easily able to locate near the source of production, these kinds of excess capacity sources can be turned into economic value through Bitcoin mining. And this has the effect of taking what can be an unprofitable business, for example, solar, and making it profitable. Put differently, if we want more wind and solar in this country with less need for government subsidy, Bitcoin can be part of the solution. Now, Bitcoin mining produces a series of other secondary effects which I detail in my written testimony. These include grid stabilization, incentives to improve ASIC chip efficiency by multiple orders of magnitude, and new technology development for things like immersion cooling, something that my company has innovated. Now, an idea sometimes circulates that somehow we could have all of the positives without the energy usage if we would just abolish proof of work and migrate blockchains exclusively to proof of stake protocols. As I noted in my written testimony, proof of stake is terrific, but it is not a substitute for proof of work, which exists for an entirely different set of purposes, and without which innovations like decentralized finance would likely not exist. Let me just conclude by comparing Bitcoin to the economic value of other uses of energy, because that ultimately is the question for the committee. Bitcoin uses a certain amount of electricity to produce $1 trillion of value, and what you will find, as noted in some of my testimony, is that the aviation industry uses something like 50 times more energy per unit of value than does Bitcoin. The global financial services and insurance industry uses roughly the same amount of energy per unit. And you will note there's a little bit of glitchy data at the very end of my written testimony, which you've corrected now in the record, but I look forward to talking to you about the economic framework within which energy usage for Bitcoin mining and other usages ought to be talked about.
U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis says, don't judge Bitcoin mining as an energy bad guy. There's a lot of innovation going on that proves otherwise. Listen to this.
There was research at the University of Cambridge that showed that Bitcoin mining uses about 40% renewable energy. And in the non-Bitcoin mining economy, it's only 12%. So Bitcoin mining is already more environmentally adapted to non-carbon emitting energy sources.
Let's talk about methane emissions. Methane emissions come from places where no other technologies can reach. There are no pipes connected, and it's too remote of a location to build anything else. Bitcoin mining recycles harmful methane emissions and turns that into profit.
We're seeing some real innovation in that field. For example, in my state of Wyoming, where oil and gas is produced, when you drill an oil well, a gas well, for a while it's not hooked up to a pipeline. So the product, especially gas, is being vented into the air. Well, now these Bitcoin miners are pulling in a trailer, hooking up to that vented gas and using it to mine Bitcoin. So they're actually
mining to help mining.
Exactly. And doing it in a way that keeps carbon out of the air and uses it to produce another product, Bitcoin. So there's a lot of innovation that's happening behind the scenes.
President Biden and the White House released a report last year on Bitcoin mining and the environment. This was a quote from said report. Crypto mining operations that capture vented methane to produce electricity can yield positive results for the climate. New research and data shows that the global Bitcoin mining industry produces less CO2 emissions than both computer games and holiday lights.
Here we're consuming or comparing global Bitcoin mining versus other industries around the world. And again, what we see here is that Bitcoin mining is really an inconsequential target. The reality is that Bitcoin mining emissions or consumption of energy is primarily closest to things like computer games and holiday lights. These are two things that you really don't hear people talking about as overwhelming threats to the planet, as things that are areas of concern, yet their energy consumption is very similar. 275 to 214 terawatt hours between Bitcoin mining and computer games. Again, reminding people that if we are going to be going after, industries, this is a very inconsequential one. If you have a 1% improvement in energy efficiency amongst this residential buildings category, it will more than offset the entire energy consumption for the entire global Bitcoin mining industry as a whole. And so residential buildings are going to be a much more impactful target, followed by road vehicles, non-residential building, and other forms of travel.
Bitcoin energy is sustainable. Bitcoin is estimated to use 58.9% of sustainable energy. This makes Bitcoin mining one of the most sustainable industries in the world. Don't believe me? Check out how Bitcoin compares to sustainable energy from the top countries.
When we look at our energy use, we can break it down to not just as a global perspective, but also in comparison with other countries. This is something that we've seen repeatedly in news articles where Bitcoin mining is compared with relatively small countries and small levels of energy usage and consumption. But what we see here when we look at the chart, comparing it to the primary energy consumers of the world, really, countries like China and the United States are the largest producers and consumers of energy. And really the chart goes in an exponential scale downwards. As we continue moving down this chart, these numbers would drop off considerably further until we finally hit that 275 global Bitcoin mining. The reality here is that this is just an inconsequential amount of energy usage. In addition to being an inconsequential amount of energy usage, we're also using a high amount of sustainable energy. Here we have a chart that shows both the Bitcoin Mining Council member data as well as the extrapolations for the entire global Bitcoin mining industry as a whole. And they stand at 63.8% for the Bitcoin Mining Council members and 58.8% for the entire industry here. When we compare that across these different countries from Germany to EU, South Korea, we can see that Bitcoin mining is really outpacing most of these countries in terms of their sustainable energy mix and utilizing these sustainable power resources. And the reason for that is because Bitcoin mining is very location agnostic and is very flexible load. It's also highly incentivized to seek out the most overlooked and underutilized sources of electricity and energy in order to remove and reduce cost. So we are incentivized as industry players to go after these remote energy sources and these sustainable energy sources that simply can't power a lot of the energy consumption that takes place in a place like Germany or South Korea in large metropolitan areas.
Get your tickets to Bitcoin 2023 Miami, May 18th through 20th, Miami Beach this year. Use code Altcoin Daily, 10% off. This is the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year. Ticket prices continue to increase as we get closer to the event. Use code Altcoin Daily, 10% off. Get your tickets now. It's no wonder that Bitcoin's hash rate, Bitcoin security, continues to climb towards all-time highs as people continue to turn on their mining machines. Even Goldman Sachs starting to notice Bitcoin top performing asset of the year. If you got value in today's video, join the Altcoin Daily team, subscribe, hit the like button, support the channel, support the video, and let us know going forward which cryptocurrencies do you want us to cover in future videos, because we cover the whole cryptocurrency market. Thanks to Documenting BTC on Twitter for putting together today's research. Give him a follow.
In conclusion here, really the Bitcoin mining energy efficiency is improving just tremendously fast. We're estimating as a council somewhere between a 3 and 2 times improvement in mining efficiency over the next couple of years. And following that, about a 6-fold improvement over the following 4 years after that. when you combine that with the fact that there is a halving built into the Satoshi protocol that reduces the energy consumption and reduces the incentive to consume electricity basically in half every 4 years, really the guaranteed or the combination of dramatically improvement in hardware as well as the reduction in energy through the economic incentive of the halving means that Bitcoin mining is guaranteed to be dramatically more energy efficient in the next 8 years and basically every year rolling forward. This is not a trend that is ever expected to change.